A brilliant game of football that was last night between Sunderland and Arsenal. One of my favourite matches so far this season. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The Black Cats making life difficult for the Gunners. Dan Ballard, fantastic. Two huge blocks and assist. A goal, the twists and the turns, that goal from Trossard. Absolute brilliant game of football. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I didn't want the full-time whistle to go, but when it did, I felt like a point each was fair. I think a draw was the fair outcome in that game. But I think it was a good result for both teams. Now, if you're an Arsenal fan, you're going to think, no, it was not. We needed to be winning that. You probably did need to win that. But I don't think a draw was a bad result against Sunderland. Because that's the type of game Arsenal used to lose. Last season, the season before that, Arsenal would have lost that. They wouldn't have got a point. They would have lost it. They showed a little bit of grit and determination, but also quality as well. I liked both tactical setups from Le Bris and Arteta. I enjoyed both of it. It was just a great game of football. Thoroughly entertaining. More of that, please. But one of my more enjoyable things to take away from the game is the story of Sunderland. Apart from the first few weeks of the season when I was hoping they would struggle because I thought they might be in the relegation battle, I've always said they'll stay up. I thought they'd maybe be 15, 16, something like that. But the longer they were down there, the better for me as a West Ham fan, right? I'm biased. But it's been weeks since I considered them to be anywhere near relegation rivals or anything like that. So as a result, I find myself rooting for Sunderland quite a lot because I like a story. I like a little bit of romance in football. I like the underdogs. And I've watched Sunderland quite a lot over the last couple of seasons. Those that know me before I started doing videos on this channel know that I used to pick 3 championship teams a season. Rather than watching every team 3 times in championship and knowing little about all 24 clubs, I prefer to pick 3 teams. And if I'm watching championship football, pick one of my 3 teams to watch if I can and know a little bit more about 3 and very little about 21. And Sunderland's been one of the 2 seasons in a row now. So I've watched a lot of them before they got promoted. So I found myself rooting for them. But last night, the thing I like about Sunderland is not just last night. It is for that 90 minutes because of how good they were. But it's the season so far. They've given those 24 current championship clubs, well, maybe about 10 of them, they've given them hope. They've got hope. I think as a football fan, one of the most important things is you do have hope. Now, that hope differs from club to club and it depends who you support. If you're an Arsenal fan, your hope is you win the Premier League title. Your hope is you win the Champions League. You want the big prizes in football and you should hope for that. You support Arsenal. If you are, say, an Aston Villa fan, I imagine your hope is you qualify for European football next season and try and win a trophy. Whether it's the Carabao Cup, FA Cup, Europa League, doesn't really matter. Your hope will be that you can someday win a trophy soon. But in the meantime, get European football. Keep European football at Villa Park. If you are a fan of one of the promoted teams, I imagine in the summer your hope was just to stay up. If we could finish 17th, we'll take that. Next season, we try and climb the table and we try and build and we try and stay in the top flight. And hopefully one day in the future, we will become an Aston Villa. I imagine that would be a hope. Likewise, there's a complete opposite end of the scale. If you're a Sheffield United fan, your hope probably is that your club is still here in 10 years. Now, I'm confident Sheffield Wednesday will be, but they're going through a horrible period right now. If you supported Inverness this time last year, your hope would be that your club was here this time this year. Financially, they were ruined. So hope varies drastically. That's why when you see, Man United fans losing the plot and people say, poor you, you've had it difficult, haven't you? But it is difficult for them because they don't know anything. They think they should be getting... It's relevant, right? There's always one club worse off than you. You can only say that. You can say that about every single team, bar one. And that club has gone out of its existence. Buddy fans would be well within the right to say to everyone else, what's your problem? Because their club, bang, gone. Wimbledon would say it. Wimbledon fans say, what's your issue? We got moved. Our club got taken away from us. You get my point. Hope is important. Different from expectation. But you need hope as a football fan. And I think when you don't have that, that's when it becomes miserable. Football's supposed to be an escape. It's supposed to be an enjoyment. It's supposed to grab you emotionally. That's what football is for me. Hope and emotions. And if you don't have either, I think it's ruined. I think football's ruined for you personally. But what Sunderland are doing this season is they're saying to that 10 championship clubs that could get promoted, look, you can do it. Here is hope. Because the ones that come up this summer would have been well within their rights to look back at the last 2 seasons where the 3 that have come up have gone straight back down thinking, well, we're promoted, but it's going to be bloody difficult because those 6 clubs tried and failed to come up and stay up. Hope would have been in short supply. I still remember reading Sunderland fans comment. I've been sat here saying Sunderland will be fine. I've seen Sunderland fans saying, "Oh, I hope so," but I don't know. I think we might get sucked into it. Hopefully they're turning that into belief and they're thinking they can do it. They must be thinking they can do it now, right? I think there will still be a few that think, oh, I don't know, a few bad results and we'll get sucked in. They're very, very humble, the Sunderland fan base. I've discovered this season doing videos on here. The Sunderland fans are very, 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 very humble, and that's being kind. Don't want to say pessimistic, but they are just a little bit wary. But anyway, let's get back to my point. Hope. But I think it's dangerous because Sunderland are outliers. What they're doing here isn't normal. They are breaking records. They're matching records. They're hitting points tallies that haven't been in place since 2010, 2008, 2009. 15 years, these records have stood of how many points a promoted club has at this stage of the season. They're hitting them. Never mind the last 6 that went up and came down. They've blown them out the water. They're matching some of the best promoted teams we've seen this millennium. This is a really big success story. Can they maintain it? Probably not. I think they will drop places in the Premier League. But I do think right now, if they were to adjust the ambition and they were to adjust that expectation, it would be top 10. If I was speaking to a Sunderland fan right now, if you're a Sunderland fan, I am speaking to you right now. What do I think you can achieve this season as a West Ham fan? Top 10. I think you can finish in the top half of the table. And that would be an incredible success. An incredible success, but also a platform, foundations, because you've got a really ambitious owner, you've got a really ambitious chairman. He's not here to make up the numbers. He doesn't want to be one of the 20. He wants to be Aston Villa. He wants to turn Sunderland into Aston Villa. And I think most clubs do. Nottingham Forest, for example, he was very loud about it. Oh, we're not just getting promoted to stay there, we're going to challenge. And he's showing it, money where your mouth is. They've spent big. They've got European football now. And I'm not saying Sunderland will get European football, but what I do think Sunderland fans could do, and I appreciate they're going to take it one step at a time, one season at a time, and I'm not speaking on behalf of them, I'm speaking on behalf of me, a random Scottish person who chats nonsense on the internet on YouTube. I think Sunderland can get top 10 this season, and I think they can look forward to saying maybe one day we could become an Aston Villa. What they're achieving this season, they haven't achieved anything yet, but what they are en route to achieve is absolutely fantastic. Not just for the club and the city, but I think for football. Not just the Premier League. I think it is brilliant for the Premier League, having that breath of fresh air. And I've always maintained it's important at least one promoted team comes up and stays up. But I meant just staying up, not going down. But what Sunderland are en route to do here isn't just to do that. It's to actually get straight in amongst the established Premier League clubs and say, hey, hang on a minute, we're here. Because Sunderland are a big football club. They've got a massive fan base, a huge following. The infrastructure is there. It's just been badly run for years. But now, it's being looked after. It's being cared for. I appreciate when he got interviewed, he said, we didn't have a budget. And it sounds a little bit wishy-washy, made up. I don't necessarily believe that. Because you're going to have a budget due to PSR and all that. The last thing you want to do is get to the end of the season, you get hit with a points deduction, and that puts you in the relegation zone. So they wouldn't do that. They're too well run these days, Sunderland. Their owners are far too bright to do something stupid like that. But the reason I think it's almost dangerous, the hope that they gave, I think it's a good thing, because if you're Coventry City fans right now and you're thinking, hey, hello, we're going to get to the Premier League, and I think they will, they'll look at Sunderland and think, maybe you can stay up. Maybe. There's now a beacon of hope, of survival in the Premier League. Maybe Burnley and or Leeds will provide that hope too. Maybe two of them will stay up. Maybe all three will stay up. It's still possible. My pre-season prediction remains, which is I don't think they will. But it's almost dangerous because Sunderland aren't scraping by. They're not 15th right now, and they're winning a game, losing a game, winning a game. So they're just always just ahead of the relegation pack. They've just gone toe-to-toe with what I consider to be one of the top 5 teams in football right now. And they looked good. Sunderland looked good last night. They coped. Now, listen, Arsenal battered them in the second half, okay? I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But Arsenal batter everyone at the minute. But Sunderland were keeping them at arm's length. Last night there was 4 goals scored. 3 of them were brilliant. One bad one. That was Saka's one. I don't mean Saka did bad. I mean Leafy did bad. To concede possession there, it was just a really stupid decision. And you'll regret that. You could see it on his face immediately. He knew he'd messed up. And I think Ruth should have been doing better as well with the attempted save. But the other 3 goals in the game, show me a goal, I'll show you a mistake. And you could pick at it. There are some errors, but they're not glaring. The first one, Dan Ballards' goal, is fantastic. Long ball gets headed down. Ballard just gives Rice a little bit of a tug in order to get away from him. But the finish is like, wow, that's like a striker's finish. That is superb from Ballard. Then we got the equaliser, which was the mistake. And then Trossard's goal is outstanding. And this is where, like I said, if you're nitpicking, you look at it and you say, well, Siddiqui just shows him inside a little bit too much. He does. Brian Brobby's there, but he's just not quite there. So there's a gap between the two of them. But let's not pretend that finish isn't outstanding. The power, the rise on it, there's no chance, no keeper saving that. So it's a bit, yeah, okay, you should have defended it better, but there's also a huge element of just class from Trossard. But then down the other end, it's just brilliant by Sunderland. Ball in, Dan Ballard gets to it. He's under pressure. The Arsenal defence, I don't think, does much wrong here. It's just an accurate ball into Ballard, who heads it down, and Brian Brobby just dominates Gabriel, which you don't really see very often. But Gabriel's doing all he can to get there. He's just not as strong as Brobby. It's just brilliant finish, brave finish as well, and it's a great moment for him. He's needed that. He's been a bit part player so far. That goal will hopefully give him a bit of confidence to go on in next game. He comes on 5 minutes earlier than he usually does. I think that's brilliant. But Sunderland could feel they can come away from that proud because they deserved a point. And I'll repeat what I said about Arsenal. Arsenal last season lose that game. Arsenal last season or the season before, they get bullied and they don't like it, and it finishes 2-1 Sunderland. Arsenal are different this season. They've not only got the quality throughout their squad, they've got squad depth as well. Tactically, they've always been good under Arteta. I think Arteta, listen, as much as he annoys me and he winds me up, and I'm looking forward to the day that someone 2-foots him on the touchline when he's out his technical area. I've always wanted to see a player just slide off the pitch. And do you know what I mean? Like, there's a ball to be clear, just thump it off him or just slide through the ball. Even if you don't have to, slide through the ball and take Arteta with you. I'm waiting for him to be harmed, but nothing too serious, because he's out of his technical area. So anyway, as much as Arteta winds me up, tactically, I think he's fantastic. I think he's one of the best in the league. This Arsenal team, there's a lot to admire about it. And even though right now it will feel like 2 points dropped for them, of course it will. They conceded a last-minute equaliser and then nearly scored after that as well. Outstanding save by Roos. And that Dan Ballard block was just fantastic. The one he did it earlier on against Eze, before that one on Marino, both of them were, he was superb last night. Individually, that's one of the best performances of a player this season. If you were to do like a team of the season, but individual performances, so it's not how well did you play over 38, it's what was every player's best game and who had the best individual game. I think there's a argument that Ballard goes into that 11 with that performance last night. He was brilliant. Goal, assist, blocks, fantastic. And I've lost my train of thought now. I don't know what I was talking about before I started getting sidetracked on Dan Ballard. But regardless, they nearly won it at the end there in Arsenal, and they were unlucky not to. I think if Calafiori gets just a little bit lower on it, it goes under Roos. But if my auntie had testicles, she'd be my uncle and all that. They will feel like they've dropped 2 points. They have. But actually, I think it's a good point. I do. I think the Stadium of Light, they're unbeaten at home. Sunderland are unbeaten at home. That's a bloody difficult ground to go to. And I am adamant, last season, Arsenal would have lost that. And I think if Sunderland hosted Liverpool a couple of weeks ago, I think Sunderland beat them at the Stadium of Light. Maybe not now, because Liverpool look like, well, they're going back to last season with Robertson at left back and that midfield three in there. So maybe not. But if you turn up to the Stadium of Light this season and you're not on your game, you're going to get beat. And even if you are on your game, you're in for a bloody difficult game. That place is quickly becoming a bit of a tough ground to go to. You think about... football bias means you think about every away ground as a difficult one, don't you? Villa Park, ooh, difficult ground. Insert team, away game, difficult. Old Trafford, oh yeah, Man, you aren't the same, but still a difficult place to go. You always think that. But some of it's not true. I wouldn't be afraid of going to the Molineux right now. And if you didn't support West Ham, I'd say I wouldn't be afraid of going to London Stadium. Even though we won our last 2 home games, which is good. But we've been crap at home up until the last 2 home games. The Stadium of Light, I think, is one of those places that you're just not going to enjoy going this season. You're not. And it may be that, listen, in a month's time, 2 months' time, they obviously lose quite a few key players to the African Cup of Nations as well. So we'll see how they cope with that. That's the period I think Sunderland fans are really worried about. Understandably so. And they will dip in form. Sunderland will dip in form. Like I said, I think they'll drop a few places between now and the end of the season. And it'll be interesting to see how they cope with that. But I think tactically, they're set up for this league. I think the signings they made in the summer was brilliant. And that's why I think it's almost false hope that they're giving to other clubs that will come up this season. Because they'll think, oh, Sunderland spent a load of money. But they got, most of the signings they've made, they've got bang on. And I think that's the most impressive thing. And I think Burnley, most of the signings they made are bang on. Leeds, not so much. When you come up, everything matters. Every small detail matters. You've got to get your transfer window right. You've got to get it bang on. You make a couple of mistakes, you're in trouble. But Sunderland have got the goalkeeper. They've got the centre-backs. They've got the full-backs. They've got the midfielders. I think they're lacking in the attacking areas, but they're finding goals in their team. That's the most important thing. At set pieces, they're a huge threat, especially with Ballards starting at the moment. I like it. I like Sunderland. I think Arsenal is still going to win the title. And come the end of the season, I think this might be looked back at as actually that was a good point rather than 2 dropped. But last night, that was a bloody good game and I enjoyed it. Sunderland are becoming one of the teams to, when they're involved in a match, it's entertaining. There's an entertaining element to the matches they're playing this season. Anyway, there you go. That's my thoughts on Sunday morning. Thank you very much for joining me. If you're still here, thank you. I appreciate it. Please do subscribe if you're new to the channel, to Tartan Jail. I'll be back tomorrow with my weekend review of all the Premier League action. We've got a lot of games today, haven't we? I'm looking forward to it. Struggling to decide which 2 p.m. game to watch. It won't be Brentford Newcastle. Sorry, it's not going to be that one. But we've got Villa Bournemouth. We've got Brighton Crystal Palace, or the other way round rather. And we've also got Nottingham Forest Leeds. 3 tasty games followed up by Manchester City Liverpool. We could have a really good afternoon. And if the game I watch at 2 p.m. and then the game at the Etihad is anything like what we've seen at the Stadium of Light last night, I'm in for a lovely afternoon watching football.